Bob Lazar is someone who became famous back in 1989 as a result of a very specific claim that he made. And that claim is that he worked at a place just south of Area 51. He called it S4. He was interviewed by Las Vegas journalist George Knapp in a series of very detailed interviews.
We put him on the air, blacked out his face, and he told this incredible story. Exactly what's going on up there?
Well, there's several, actually 9 flying saucers, flying discs that are out there of extraterrestrial origin.
He said it's a secret that needed to be told to the world, that his life was in danger, and that he was coming forward and wanted to tell it. I could feel my jaw dropping. Is this real? We left there thinking, wow, if this is real, this is a really big story. So we decided, well, let's take the time and get this right.
Over the next 8 months, Knapp conducted a thorough investigation of Lazar's sensational claims. According to Lazar, before he worked at S4, he was a physicist at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, the facility that developed the atomic bomb.
The central question for me was, did he work at Los Alamos? Because if he did, it would at least be plausible that if he worked there in a technical or scientific position, that he could also be hired at a place like S4. So that's where we focused our attention. I started calling Los Alamos at first. Nope, we have no record of a guy named Bob Lazar. I got the phone book from the Los Alamos lab. There's his name in the phone book. I called him back and said, hey, he's in the phone book. They finally, sort of exasperatingly, told me, yeah, we've got a record of him being here. We found Bob Lazar to be credible about his background, his scientific training, where he had worked.
For more than 2 decades, Bob Lazar's critics claimed there was no evidence of any secret military base in the Nevada desert. But then, in 2013, a Freedom of Information Act request forced the CIA to finally acknowledge that Area 51 is real.
The story of Area 51, it exploded around the world. The reason you know about Area 51 is because Bob Lazar and George Knapp on the news 1989 made it a household name. That's the reason. All of that came from Bob Lazar.
To many researchers, the government's acknowledgement of Area 51 established Lazar as more than a UFO pioneer. His inside access made him a whistleblower.
My name's Bob Lazar. I'm known for working at a classified base known as S4 out in the Nevada desert near Area 51. And there, we reverse engineered alien spacecraft.
But could Lazar's sensational claims be true? Former Air Force pilot Captain David Fruhoff worked at Area 51 from 1979 until 1985. And while he was never shown any alien technology, he attests that Bob Lazar's account of the facility is entirely accurate.
When I was there, we knew about S4, but we didn't know what they did. And I know people that had worked for me that after I left there, they had seen Bob Lazar there. And they admitted that to me recently. Bob Lazar's statements and all the things he had said have gelled now to the point where I think he's very credible.
air of mystery has always surrounded Nevada's Area 51 base. For years, the U.S. military denied that it even existed, but it's been there since 1955, hidden behind cryptic nicknames. Now, new secrets about the base being made public, including, for the first time, its real name. George Knapp of the 8 News Now I-Team has the story.
Area 51 is in one sense a living, breathing contradiction. That is, the world's best-known secret base. It's inspired books, TV shows, even major motion pictures.
Welcome to Area 51.
But was it ever truly a secret?
Area 51 was never secret, the existence of it. It's just who was out there and what they were doing.
Longtime CIA technician T.D. Barnes has probably done more than anyone to lift the veil of secrecy from Area 51. He's the head of the Roadrunners, a group of former Area 51 employees who came out into the open more than a decade ago to talk about the work they did in the Nevada desert. Barnes took things much further, nudging the CIA to declassify photos and documents about the base, things even the CIA didn't seem to know, including the base's real name. Station D was the CIA's original name for Area 51. It's right there in the title of Barnes' new definitive history of the place.
They had all kinds of documents in there that identified as Station D.
Wow. And it just has avoided, the public hasn't seen that until right now.
They've never seen it, but even when I went back to historians get more, they said, we've never heard of that.
In his book, Barnes outlines the astonishing array of names, nicknames, and code names used for the base since it was first chosen by the CIA back in 1955 as the perfect spot to secretly test and fly the highly classified U-2 spy plane. Groom Lake is the location, so that's always been used. CIA employees initially called it Watertown or the Watertown Strip, named for the hometown of the CIA director at the time. The designation Area 51 started in 1958. When the CIA needed to annex land from the nearby atomic testing range in order to develop the A-12 Blackbird. Sometime in the 60s, the 51 disappeared from maps, and the military started pretending there wasn't a base out there at all, even though Russian spy planes knew it was there. Lockheed used the name Paradise Ranch, a cruel joke to lure workers out to the desert.
It was anything but paradise.
Paradise Ranch became just the ranch, then Red Square, or the Box, which referred to the no-fly zone around the base. Several other names popped up over the decades: Yuletide, St. Elsewhere, Home Plate, Homey Airport, and The Site, along with many other variations, including what might be the best of the bunch, Dreamland, taken from a tower call sign. The CIA used cover stories, basically lies, to disguise what went on at Groom Lake. In the beginning, it was supposedly a NASA weather station, then an atomic energy research facility. But the whole time, the CIA was developing the world's most advanced espionage platforms, technology that helped the U.S. win the Cold War. In the 70s, when CIA misdeeds caught the attention of Congress and 2 presidents, it suddenly dawned on Washington that the CIA was forbidden from operating inside the U.S. Station D was shut down, and control transferred to the U.S. Air Force. In the mid-'80s, when the Air Force seized 89,000 acres of public land around Groom Lake, public attention was aroused. At the end of the 80s, it exploded because of a certain wild story, the one that made the base world famous, which Barnes also covers in his new book.
When the word got out that there's something going on in Area 51, and that the CIA was involved for 20 years that no one knew about. They said, what were they doing for 20 years out there? And that's when the UFO thing started.
UFOs, eh? At Area 51? Kind of rings a bell.
Actually 9 flying saucers.
George Knapp, 8 News Now.